Okay guys, welcome back. We just had an interlude there because we're in the public foyer of my apartment block, and we're lucky we've had no one come through. But there were just, so guys, generally speaking, if you're in Japan or Europe or England, there's a guy in the UK.
There's a guy in London, David Griffiths.
David Griffiths.
Griff was a European Tour player, had lost his game, and we met probably 3 years ago now. And 3 years ago, he jumped right on board the northbound train, so to speak. He loves it. He probably would go back and play, but family situation, young son, and a wife who's got a bit of a health problem. So Griff's not going to take his show on the road, which is a shame, but what he has done is he's thrown himself into teaching, and he teaches our approach in his way, as all of the teachers do. Just like the northbound approach is a framework based on principle, and it's based on sound shot making reasoning, right? We can sort of prove it all if you like, but there is scope for individuality within it, and that also goes for the teaching of the principles.
And so if someone's in GB or close proximities in Europe, how would they get in touch with
David Griffiths?
Yeah, David Griffiths.
Probably just come and see us on Northbound Golf, or martin.ayers@northboundgolf.com is my email address.
And guys, I will sort of reinforce that on my channel for you guys in the comments section. So we'll give you that. Do you want to just give that address again?
martin.ayers@northboundgolf.com.
Okay. Now, guys,
we also have Michael's in Boston.
Yeah.
Michael Powers, my teaching partner. Also got Jim Schumann, who's a fine player himself. He was almost the PGA Player of the Year this year in America.
Wow.
So he's very, very fine player. Just finished second in the Senior Club Pro. He's a senior golfer now. Qualified for the Senior US Open, made the cut, so on. But he's also a teacher. He's Jerry Kelly's coach. So not only did he make the cut at the US Senior Open, but he did that while he was tuning Jerry Kelly up at the same tournament. So Jerry Kelly, as you know, has been playing very well. Just won the
super player.
Mitsubishi Electric.
Super player.
So Jim is Jerry's long-term coach, and Jim has been working with me for as long as Michael has been. But he's a fantastic teacher, fantastic player. So Jim Schumann, if you ever in Scottsdale or Miami or Milwaukee, he's sort of flits around between those places.
So guys, there's entree to Northbound Golf. Going forward, I'll give it more airtime as well. But just get onto Northbound Golf and just put in any inquiries you have through Northbound Golf. Okay, just a couple of other things. When Marty and I used to, in our halcyon days, our happy days, we spent hundreds of hours on the practice tee, and we did some crazy stuff in terms of equipment. And I was just thinking back the other day, Marty, to like Marty's action is so strong, and Marty is a strong dude. But I remember in the old days, those when you had, and you were just saying now that you've gone back to them. Marty used to have a little set of my Euro, what they call baby blades. And guys, for anyone who's a blade player, these things are tiny. They're tiny little blades, just spectacular little clubs.
Very nice, yeah.
Beautiful. And Marty in those days was experimenting with, he wanted the stiffest possible shaft that he could get. So he ended up getting like X300s, and they were tipped up to, what did they end up being, X500s?
Yeah, I don't know what they were.
X500 or X600s, guys. They were rebars within a rebar. They were just so stiff. I could hit the 7-iron about 100 yards. That's how stiff they were. And Marty went down the road where he had really heavy swing weights and massive counterbalancing, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, huge counterbalancing in the end, and he could hit them very well. And I was only thinking about it yesterday. So in terms of the evolution of club specifications, where are you today?
That's a good question, because it's funny, I've met another guy in the UK, James Day. He's actually the owner of Urban Golf.
Yeah, I've seen James do interviews with you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And James is a really, really good club fitter. I've never heard anybody else sort of talk about clubs in the way that he does, and it really resonated with me because his idea of fitting is to have a sort of a give and take with the player and the club where, you know, I think, again, just going back to the wider tidal wave of bullshit, there's this belief that the player moves the club. And nobody, or almost nobody that I know, pays any attention to what the club's doing to the player, right? But that was always the basis of everything that we did.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Yeah.
your putter, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
I don't know if you want me to mention that, but
It's there,
the
yeah.
putter that you designed, I talked to you about that. I said what I got from that putter was this feedback of where it became me. It was doing my bidding and I was doing its bidding, to where there was this sort of symbiotic relationship between me and the club, and that is what the pitching machine is.
Yeah.
And so the club needs to fit you in that way. It needs to not force you to react and change your singular motion during the motion at any stage. So that's just a preface. This guy James Day has been very helpful to me in understanding where I need to get to with my equipment. So
And where is that?
Well, I was going to say the first set he built me, he uses this proprietary technology developed by a friend of his called Shaft Max, and I was sort of off the chart of Shaft Max through the top of the graph and out the other side in terms of pressure on the shaft, and that's why I was craving these big heavy sticks. So he built me a set. I've gone away from the dynamic golds into some Nippon shafts. So I got some 130X hard step Nippons with counterbalance and weight on the heads and everything. Very high MOI, very high total weight. And they were great. My good shots, it was great. And then as I started travelling around with the teaching, going to different places and not playing golf as regularly myself because I was too busy doing certain other things, I found that those clubs became, when I wasn't just hitting balls, so for the last 3 years I haven't been hitting balls, they got to be a little bit too much for me. I couldn't just walk up and put the right amount of pressure on these, so they were no longer working with me. So James suggested I go in a little bit different direction. So now I'm down to the 125s, which is a slightly different profile in the shaft. It's more like the bubble shaft profile. Not the bubble shaft profile, the nunchuck.
Yeah, nunchuck,
in the sense it's stiff, a little bit flexible in the middle, and then stiff. So Nippon 125X, no hard stepping. I've taken out the counterweight, and I do have weight in the head, so they're still heavy, but they're not like I had. And what that's allowed me to do is just be a little bit softer. I'd sort of fallen in love with.
When you say softer in the application?
Yeah, I mean you've seen me hit it where. You've seen me hit it where you're saying, "Wow, that looks so easy," and I was just almost chipping it. Right? So I'm sort of moving more towards that, rather than, rather than looking to generate and deliver the most force that I'm capable of doing. It's more within a very comfortable realm, and that's where I want to move, because as I was playing the game, anything that was full on shot, like a full-blooded shot, I would hit very nicely. And then when I wanted to be a little bit creative, which is my personality when I play anyway, I like to create shots, I wasn't quite as effective. And I thought, based on what James was saying to me, he thought I should move in a slightly softer direction, away from that edge that I was on. Because I was so hard up against that edge of firmness that, I had to sort of be on my limit or close to it in order for the clubs to react to me in a perfect way.
Well, from a kinesthetic feedback point of view, once that super huge specification of that golf club, it required a certain amount of loading, that's going to put a lot of pressure back on you neurologically.
Yeah.
I mean, because that is there. I have to have that amount of pressure on it because that club demands that of me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand that
Yeah,
totally.
so I could hit partial shots by, you know, controlling the duration of the action down to a very short duration, but I couldn't hit a real soft shot, you know, with those clubs.
Well, they needed to be loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to hit a soft shot with a club that you're not loading, and they demand to be loaded.
I understand that the reason I went down that road in the beginning was partly I wanted to see, you know, what I could do with this pitching machine, and I kind of fell in love with the pressure.
Yeah.
I fell in love with the smash.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you were smashing in those days. It was just hammer
hard,
time, wasn't
it's
it?
hard not to.
Oh, it was hammer
It's
time.
hard not to get a little bit seduced by.
Yeah,
it.
I was hammer time.
So you know, we're all guilty of, you know, I don't even know what the word is. It's sort of like, it's like a guilty pleasure being able to hit the ball like that. Having not in the past, you know, when I played on the tour, I hit the ball okay, but I never hit anything like that. And so I kind of fell in love with that, and you know, my set reflected that. You know?
Oh, they did. I couldn't hit them. As I say, they were so stiff, so heavy. I got to the top of the swing for me, and I felt like they were going to pull me over. But the few times that I managed to load it, it was extraordinary. But I just didn't have the capability to load it. But that was just an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I must admit, that wasn't the only reason I went down that road. The other thing is that everybody used to talk about Moe's clubs and Hogan's clubs, and they'd pick them up and how heavy they were. And it always struck me that, you know, Hogan was not a big guy. And I'm not saying he wasn't strong. Of course, he would have been strong. Certainly in the golf sense, he would have been strong. But, you know, I'm sort of a believer that the motion itself, the action is player driven, right? Action, like I want to hit something, right? Not that I want to hit JH, but if I want to hit something.
If you want it, buddy, you can.
But it's, from a player's perspective, I want to feel like I'm going to strike that ball. That's it. But I want the club to swing.
Yeah.
And I want the club to drive the swing. So I always thought, well, if I had a big club,
Yeah.
right, I can have a big swing without me doing much. But there is the corresponding thing where it does, you know, a big club requires more from you to balance that.
Oh, no question.
There's a
No question.
James Day, my friend in the UK, he calls it like a cliff. So the way that he'll fit someone is he'll take them, usually most people play stuff that's too light and too whippy generally. But let's say that the typical person comes in and the club's a little bit light, a little bit whippy for them. What he'll do is he'll take them up the scale, right? And then when he recognises, he starts to see that they're starting to fall off, you know, in their motion and in their ball speeds starting to go down, and then they'll fall off a cliff. Well, that point at which they'll fall off a cliff where their action falls apart and their ball speed drops dramatically down, like you would with my clubs, right?
Yeah.
So once that person's off that cliff, he knows where their cliff is, and then he'll back it off in terms of MOI, total weight, and flex off that cliff. So he knows he's got a nice buffer there. So the problem he had, it wasn't a problem. What he said to me was that I haven't got a club I can build that'll take you off the cliff.
Wow.
Well, but it was just because of the pressure that I was putting on the shaft, right?
Yeah.
So there wasn't a club that was too heavy or stiff that he could build that would, you know, take me off the cliff. So he's like, well, go away with that set and see how you go. Now, I used it for 18 months to 2 years. And as I said, I loved it. I mean, my good shots felt unbelievable. But as time went on, I started to realise, hey, I don't need to be this far up. These aren't over the cliff, but maybe they're a bit close to my cliff. And now we've backed off and I'm really enjoying my set.
It's interesting, back in the old days, I mean, when we were exposed to a couple of new developments, and one came out was a shaft called the Nunchuck, which was developed by Jerry Hogan, an Australian. And it was a very stiff shaft. It was only one flex. It was 305 CPM at 44 inches, which is, you know, double X. And anyway, Marty used that But what he did was he made his driver length 43 inches. Remember, he had the really short driver? And he picked up distance and accuracy, and the club at 43 inches would have been, I don't know, probably 315, 318 CPM. It was off the scale. But it was a big heavy shaft, 43 inches, and you just picked up distance like it was going out of style, didn't you? It was just really extraordinary.
I like that driver.
Yeah, at 43 inches. Did you like the 43 inches?
Yeah, no, I've always said this. I mean, I remember when we were at Piggerbean Range with elk, and we got on TrackMan there, and I was 114 with the driver, miles an hour, and I was using a steel shafted, that was with a 44-inch driver. I was using a steel shafted 3-wood that was 42 and a quarter inches, right?
Yep.
Heavy steel.
Yep.
And my swing speed was 112.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really getting any speed out of the extra length and the lightness of a graphite shaft. My speed was my speed. 112 with a 3-wood and 114 with a driver. There was no real discernible speed difference, right? So
that's when the light went on. The light went on.
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you when the light went on was when I had that stick years before.
Yeah.
450 grams that
Yeah,
thing was,
yeah.
so heavier than a driver.
Yeah.
And uniformly weighted.
Yeah.
Because it's
like a broomstick.
It's a dowel, right? And I was swinging that at the same speed as my driver.
Yeah, which was extraordinary.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah, we couldn't understand that. We couldn't comprehend what was going on there, could we?
Well, I couldn't.
But the mass was developing the speed, which was a strange thing.
Well, that's sort of saying it's like club driven. So if the best way I could do that would be actually visually show you, and that would be that it didn't matter if it was a 450 gram dowel or a driver. It's loading, it's in motion, and then it is delivered once, right? So it's not this dragging, pushing, pulling. It's only got one go in it, right? There's not 5 efforts. So with no effort, there's one time, right? And it was through having an action that was, instead of dragging and pulling or pushing and driving, right?
We may not be in frame because we're down.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Instead of pulling, right, for power, or pushing for power, I was in motion with no pull and no push, but contained. And this thing contained, and held rather, as it's in motion, has its own time. If I don't give that up, if I don't lose my containment, at some point, this thing's going to go. Can't hold it back, it's like a freight train.
No, that's right.
So in that one-time action, with it contained, I was getting the same speed with a 450 gram dowel as I was with a driver. And at the time, again, I didn't understand why, but I believe that that's why. Because it's only, I can't make it go faster by pulling from one side of me. I can't make it go faster from pushing from the other side of me. Where do I get the speed from? If I just swung my hands and no club in it, what would I register? How fast could I get my hands going, do you think? Certainly not 114 miles an hour.
Well,
they don't measure your hands, they measure the club head.
Yeah,
right? So it's not...
It's the inertia of the club head in that radius.
Precisely.
In
so
that
where
radius.
do we get our speed from? The club.
Yeah.
So that's my premise, it's a club-driven swing.
And so...
Yeah, sorry, that got a lot more long-winded.
No, but that's okay. But today, do you still use a short driver or a conventional length?
No, I still use, well, I've got a 44-inch driver.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I don't even use a driver anymore. I've got a 3-wood I love. It's 42.5-inch 3-wood, and I'm basically the Hendrick Stenson of the teaching world. I don't use the driver very much because I just like my 3-wood.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, I like the size of the head.
And does it have a big shaft in it?
Yeah, it's got a pretty big shaft.
Yeah, heavy.
Yeah, 95 grams.
Yeah, see guys, 95 grams. I mean, we're all talking today. They're pushing us down the road of 50s, 60s, and a heavy shaft today is considered a 70. But I know Adam Scott uses a 90.
No, a lot of the guys are using, and Ricky Fowler's gone to a 43-inch driver, and
he's long.
Yeah. Jimmy Walker went to a 42.5-inch driver, something like that.
He's got very long arms though.
Yeah, but I mean,
Inordinately long arms.
Still, they're going to short, and if you're going to carry that length, they would have 100-gram shafts.
Yeah.
There's no way you'd go 42.5 with 60 grams.
You'd be in the C swing weights with the driver. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, my 3-wood. I'm not going to play on the PGA Tour, and I'm not going to go play in a major, and so I'm not going to play a 7,600-yard golf course. I don't need a driver. I mean, if I'm playing a 7,000-yard golf course, 7,100 yards, my 3-wood goes as far as I used to drive it when I was a rookie on tour, basically.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah.
It goes about 280 easily off the tee.
Yeah.
And when I say easily, it's not like I fly at 280 every time, but I mean, when I'm playing a golf course, that's about how far it ends up off the tee most of the time, with a bit of run. So that's far enough to play golf, isn't it? So what I enjoy, the reason I do that is because I hate the big heads.
Yeah.
I hate the way they feel.
Yeah, you've always said that. Yeah.
So I'd rather just use the 3-wood, give up a little bit of distance, but I just like the way the balance of the sweet spot relative to the shaft as it travels around me. There's not a big head out there that can be bent to the specs and finagled that feels like my 3-wood.
Yeah.
They all feel alien.
Yeah.
The drivers.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to say that I have very, very much that sort of feedback factor myself. I'm really I'm actually with my driver. When I have a short driver, I mean, my driver most times only 43 and a half, or if I've got a 44 and a half, I grip it down. I mean, I grip down to 43 because that just suits my balance factors more to the point, and the fact that I don't like to get my hands extended out. I mean, the longer the club, I just feel that I'm out here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a driver, but I don't even. It's not even in my bag at the moment. I just been playing golf with the 3-wood, and it's.
And you've gone back to your old baby Mura blades, So how long have you had those?
Since 2009.
Wow.
But I haven't used them.
I remember when they came in. I remember the day they came in.
Yeah, I haven't used them since 2011.
Wow.
And the thing is, they're not that worn because even back then I'd stopped hitting a ton of balls. But I'm not worried about them getting worn out now because I only play. I don't practice. And I don't stand on the range and hit range balls, so I'm not worried about wearing them out.
Yeah.
And James Day in the UK has custom ground the soles. You should see.
Yeah, you were saying. Yeah.
They're amazing.
And of course,
the ground is beautiful.
It's we'll specify. And of course, back in those days, when you were going through the specification process of changing things, you were like 6-7 degrees flat as well.
Yeah.
So how has that changed today?
Well, I'm still at 5 degrees flat of tightness standard, whatever.
Okay.
They're all the standards are different, but
okay.
I think they've got a 58 degree 6 iron or 57.5 degree 6 iron, something like that.
Yeah.
So my wedges are 59, so it's 5 degrees flat of Vokey standard, let's say.
And what do you think about, just changing the subject, what do you think about DeCambo's specs? All his irons are 71 degrees, every one.
Yeah, well, you know how I said with my sticks, I put myself on an edge, which severely limited what I could do, I think. And I think that's what he's done. He's got himself on an edge where, I think he's limited in what he can do.
Well, having single axis too. I mean,
all that stuff. I mean, look, it's good, but he's put himself into a corner. But he's an immensely talented guy, and he's a great golfer.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So all that other things aside, I mean, and this just goes to a case in point of how the swing is not the game, and so on. Like, the game it's a game of shots, and he is obviously a very good shot maker with that gear. He'd be a good shot maker with pretty much any gear, but he's chosen to go down this path. Now, my point would be, what does an average guy do with that set of sticks? Okay, well, if you've got a 3-iron that's the length of your 7-iron, most guys would struggle to get that in the air and keep it in the air. He can. Okay, so he's strong enough, young enough, and all that to hit a 3-iron with a 7-iron shaft in it. Could I do that? Yeah, but I'd still hit it pretty low. I'd hit it low because I would use a blade or whatever. But so you're limited, right? You've limited yourself. You've got a 3-iron with a 7-iron shaft, so you do not have a 3-iron length 3-iron. So the shots you can hit with a 7-iron length 3-iron are limited compared to what you can hit with a 3-iron length. So there's one factor with DeChambeau, is that I think he's limiting himself. He sees it as being this removal of randomness. But the thing is, there's a reason why golf sets progress the way they do, right? And through having all the same length in the irons, he thinks that that's making the game easier. But as we talked about earlier, that's in the mindset of you are everything, right? What you do is everything. That's that mindset. He's thinking this is making the game easier because I'm doing the same setup with all my irons. So for him, that obviously simplifies it. But when you've got 225 uphill into a firm green over a bunker, and you're hitting a 3-iron with a 7-iron shaft, that's a harder shot than it is with a 3-iron leg 3-iron. Right? So my point is just that it's a whole thing, golf, and if you, in simplifying one aspect, you make the other aspect more difficult, and you've got to look and question, am I really making it more simple? And so I can't stand listening to him talk about the science.
He drives you nuts, and it's killing him in his putting too. I mean, he's gone ultra scientific in his putting, and it's detrimental.
Yeah, and look, but it only bothers me because I just feel like this guy's so young and he's pigeonholing himself, so early.
And as you say, so much natural talent. Wow.
Yeah, and also painting himself into a corner with the equipment as well. So I mean, what about? As he develops, he's kind of, like I said, he's on this edge and he's got nowhere really to go.
No.
So it's good. Anyway.
I must say that I've actually had a hit with 71 degree one length irons. I've actually, my buddy Adrian, he practices with me all the time. I hit his one length irons, and for me, at my level of play, I get so much confidence neurally with the one, because I'm very methodical the way I set up the same anyway, but for me at my level of play, because I'm not going to be wanting to hit the 225, well I want to, but the capability of hitting a 225 3-iron would be
I'm
three.
Talking about what he needs to do to compete on tour.
Oh no question. I mean, I totally agree with you. But again, what did he get? $15 million or something as a sign on that to play one length clubs? It's a big incentive, isn't it?
Absolutely. And as I said, look, if you how do you go? One of the reasons my clubs are 5 degrees flat and not more is that what I found when I was a little bit flatter than that, and I'd go play golf, when I'd have pitch shots and stuff, because how many pitch shots do you get that are dead flat lines?
Yeah.
Ball above feet, ball below feet. Yeah. As soon as I got in a situation where the ball was anything but like fairly flat, if it got anything like that, man, it was the ball above my feet with a really flat pitch.
Yeah.
I was very limited in what I could do, and this is my point: is that it limits you, right? You have to have clubs that don't limit you. You have to have clubs that allow you to play all the shots you need to play without having to, get too far out of your comfort zone, out of your balance and out of your rhythm.
Yeah.
And so with these extra heavy, stiff, counterweighted clubs, I had put myself into a bit of a corner. Right? I had to be firm, I had to be strong, which I liked, but that made certain shots on the golf course more difficult than they needed to be. And so I'm no longer playing.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect outlook, guys. Why put yourself in a situation where you're creating more difficulty for yourself than you need to create?
Yeah.
Simplicity of thinking.
The
logic.
See, this is the thing. The game is never ever going to lose its challenge.
No.
And this is the interesting thing. If I was to tell you guys what my process was for hitting a golf shot, in my terms, I'm not going to, because I'm just going to keep that to myself. But it's so simple that you would think you'd get bored of it, right?
I feel the same way with my new system.
Well, there you go. It's so simple that I would be in danger of getting bored with it, and that's probably why I don't hit balls on the range, because it is boring. But the game presents, every time I play a shot, I've never had that shot before, and how can that be boring? Right? That'd be like driving your car somewhere new. You've never been there before, right? Which doesn't happen. In golf, you've never had that shot before.
No, you don't.
Right? Even if it's the first tee of your country club that you play every day, right? There's something about that shot that is definitely unique, and that is the moment that it's played in.
Yeah.
You've never been here today,
Yeah, that's right.
right now, to do it. You've never had that shot.
I've that's been my philosophy forever. There is never ever a shot that you will ever play that is ever the same as the shot that you played before or at any time.
No.
Ever. It can't be. Because situations change. Everything is in a state of flux.
Yeah.
Always.
That's right.
Well,
So,
mate,
what do you need? You need a way to deal with a brand new situation every time.
yeah.
So I want to touch again on this point.
Okay.
You don't fix your swing. You don't fix your chipping. You don't fix it. I'm fixed now, thank God. Right? Until the next bad one, and then you're not fixed anymore, and then you're like, oh, I thought I'd fix that. No, it doesn't work that way. There's no such thing as being fixed. With northbound golf, what we've got is the absolute antithesis of the idea of training in a cumulative way to try to fix yourself. Okay? It's all about preparing you for your next shot, which you've never had before, but you have a way to do it. That's what it's about. And whether you look up northbound golf or not, I don't care, but that's how you ought to approach your golf, believe me, is I need to be able to train myself to know how I'm going to play my next shot and all my future shots. I don't have to worry about fixing anything that's in my rearview mirror.
Was there no control of the rearview mirror?
You can't fix it,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Well, what's done is done.
It's always in a state of flux. You can't fix it, so don't try.
Yeah. Don't look in the
You don't
rearview
need to
mirror.
fix it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't look in the rearview mirror.
No. What was it, Hogan said he used to walk and there was
Yeah,
a wall
yeah.
to follow him.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
always thought of that in a different way when I used to read that, and now I see it in that way. It's like there's nothing in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
One of the Jackie Burke said about Hogan about the circle of insecurity. Any of you who've ever seen Jackie Burke on Secret Golf or whatever, Hogan's circle of insecurity. He would keep himself in a bubble of insecurity. He didn't want to get any security in his mind. What is that if not acknowledging that you can't ever be fixed? Right?
Well, yeah. I guess if you look at it that way, that's exactly what it's acknowledging.
He did not want to feel like he had it, right? And that sounds maybe a little bit negative, but let me tell you this. I also know I never feel like I don't have it. So I know I've never got it, and I've never not got it. Right? What it sets up is I don't need a sports psychologist.
No.
Right?
It's a dichotomy, but an understandable dichotomy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, quick story. I'm working with a guy in England one time, and he hits about 4 or 5 of the best wedges he's ever hit in his life, and he's really excited. And then he hits kind of a half a shank, and then he hits like a bleeder to the right. He's like, I've lost it. And I said, no, you haven't lost anything. Just hit the next one. So he hits the next one, and he flushes it. And he goes, I've got it back. And I said, hello.
It's like a meeting.
It is.
Yeah, we're just on.
Oh, sorry.
We're just on camera.
Yes.
That's all right.
It's been damaged because people pushed the
Oh, I
chair.
see.
Sorry, and also need to
That's all
Thank
right.
you.
Oh, look at this, a library.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we'll do is we'll cut it here, and we'll come back. Just, huh?
want to finish that story. You
Okay.
could trim it out, couldn't you?
Sorry.
Yeah, probably not. No, yeah, I don't know how to do it.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Yeah. But we'll come back on another tape and we'll finish on the other one. Okay, guys, we'll just peel it here and we'll come back on another video.
I'll leave you 5 minutes. We're going to continue the conversation.
No, it's okay.